Jim will fix it. He's the only guy that can fix AEW. He'll get them back into the millions. He'll break the highest ever recorded Dynamite. He will break all the ratings. Or will he? Because you guys seem to think that Jim will fix it for sure.
Welcome back, guys, to Fog Wrestling, and we are here to fix our previous video because a lot of you guys said we got it wrong, that we downplayed the impact that Jim Cornette has on the wrestling business. Now, I don't know if we came across as Jim Cornette haters. Personally, I'm not. I kind of like Jim Cornette. I was never a massive fan of him as a personality on TV in wrestling, but as a content creator, as a podcaster, I do like his takes on wrestling. I do think he is entertaining with his rants, but let's be real, the guy's not The Rock. He's not Dwayne Johnson, and he is stuck in the past. And I don't think he would personally, if he was in charge, if he was the main writer, I don't personally think he is the best guy for the job. I think he's got a more sort of territories, 80s style of wrestling, and that doesn't really appeal to me. So while I like Cornette and I appreciate some of his takes and I agree with him on some things, I don't think this guy is a god of wrestling. I certainly don't agree with everything he says, and I really don't agree that he can change the wrestling industry if he appeared on a current day show. Let's be honest, the big draws in wrestling don't even move the needle that much. The only guy that I would say probably in 2023 that moves the needle is The Rock. I mean, that is it, because wrestling is pretty much dead. Cena is coming back time and again, and he improves the rating, but it's not massive. Same for Brock. He can come back, improve the rating. It's not massive. I think if Austin came back, he'd get a good rating, but again, Austin's another guy that is only really been relevant in the wrestling bubble. And now that wrestling's dead, Austin's relevance and Austin's impact in the wrestling world has less value than it did when wrestling was booming. You can make a case that the only guy that has went on to achieve like mainstream success is The Rock. Therefore, he's the only guy that is going to massively change ratings. I've seen someone comment that Jim Cornette gets more viewers on his podcast than all three main AEW shows combined. First of all, I'm going to call bullshit on that one. I don't think he does at all. And let's say, even if he does, there's no correlation between clicks on a video and people being willing to tune in to watch AEW Dynamite. Just because you're willing to watch like a 3-minute video clip of Jim Cornette doesn't necessarily mean you're going to tune in and watch a 2-hour Dynamite if he's going to show up on Wednesday. So, it's impossible to say what actual rating Jim Cornette would bring to AEW Dynamite. And I think we may have downplayed it a little bit by saying 10. I don't think we didn't literally mean 10, but I don't believe that Jim Cornette would improve the AEW Dynamite rating by anything more than like 100,000, 150 at best. I certainly don't think he'd help get it over 1 million, because we've seen Adam Copeland come in, done nothing. Are we supposed to pretend that Adam Copeland isn't a big draw in WWE, that he wasn't relevant in WWE? Look at Ric Flair, arguably, a legend, no doubt about it, arguably the greatest of all time, some people would say. He came in and the AEW rating was shocking. So I think it's a bit ludicrous to suggest that Jim Cornette can like double the Dynamite rating, but the likes of Edge and Ric Flair actually bring the rating down. Come on. Even Cena and Taker couldn't get NXT over 1 million, but we're supposed to believe that Jim Cornette is the savior of professional wrestling. I'm not buying that.
We crunched the numbers. The guy has 382,000 subscribers on his YouTube account, and his recent Dynamite review got 25,000 views. That doesn't really scream to me the big numbers, and let's be real, right? Stevie Richards and Maven have been uploading videos recently debunking injuries and classic botch matches, etc. And they are reeking in the views. But you try to tell me if either of those two returned to wrestling and went to AEW or WWE, they'd be moving the needle because what they're doing on social media. It just doesn't work like that. right? I would get a tattoo. I love Tony Khan. If Jim Cornette appeared in AEW and it got more than 100,000 views in terms of like moving it for what it was last week, there's just not a chance. I mean,
Well,
like,
I wouldn't go that far because the rating can fluctuate, but how can you tell if you can't tell if Jim Cornette's responsible for that? I mean, Dynamite could do 750 one week and 850 the next week, and it could just be a coincidence that Jim Cornette is on the show with 850. I mean, I don't agree. I don't agree with that statement whatsoever.
I'm willing to take the risk to get the tattoo. I love Tony. No, these people are talking millions. He's not fucking delusional.
I don't think anyone has said millions. I believe one person suggested a million. But
hold on, right? Say he gets 1 million on his podcast or whatever. That's worldwide. Dynamite's done off US ratings. I think there's a big fucking difference there.
Well, we'll read the comments.
We're talking about 8 billion people compared to 380 million.
Well, we'll read the comments and see what the people think. I certainly don't agree that this guy's going to... Like, yeah, could he get a little bump? Would he bring a portion of his fans? Absolutely. But is it going to be groundbreaking difference here in the ratings? No, I don't believe that for a second. Cadmus 750 said, I mean, if we imagine a hypothetical scenario where Corny accepted the tickets, no doubt he would have mentioned it on his podcast, and no doubt a fair amount of people would have tuned in for that. Not saying it would have been a huge needle move that gets AEW compete with WWE in the ratings by any means, but it'd be big enough of a boost for Corny to brag about it for the rest of time. Oh, come on. I know you're not saying that it would be a big enough boost to compete with WWE, but to even suggest that sort of movement, I mean, come on. Like, Cornette, I mean, no, Cornette could just be on the show and the show could do better. Does that mean that if Cornette appeared and it did better than the 769, would that mean Cornette's a bigger draw than Flair? Because he was on a show that had a higher rating? I'm just not buying that.
No, I'm not buying any of this. I actually cannot believe that every comment is backing Jim Cornette to the hill about his drawing ability.
Well, Edge must be a bum then, because since Edge went AEW, the ratings have been poor. So Edge must suck.
Yeah, well, he must suck then.
Hold on, was Jim Cornette not on TNA TV?
For a lot of it, yeah.
And what happened? Where was his drawing power back then? Anyway, Tristan McCam said he has more listeners than AEW has viewers. It would be a big boost. Disagree with that.
Where are these numbers? Like, he's got more listeners. Is this on Podcast One or whatever the fuck it's called now?
Podcast One's dead.
So what is it?
I'm assuming. I think he's on Apple Podcasts, and I believe he's got the YouTube channel. He doesn't have more listeners than AEW has viewers. That's false. Someone show me the numbers. I've checked this. I could not see any evidence to back this up. If someone can link us to the evidence that he is bringing in more viewers, I mean, unless what are you combining all his viewers for the past year? Then maybe he'd have more than AEW. But we're talking like on a weekly basis. People are suggesting that he gets more viewers on his weekly podcast than Dynamite does, and I highly doubt that. If Jim Cornette is raking in 800,000 viewers a week, I'd be shocked. Yeah, I would be shocked if this guy's getting, be honest, 50,000. I think if he's getting 50,000 people listening to his podcast every week, I'd be amazed.
Well, no, let's just say he's getting more than AEW combined. That means he's not far off WWE.
Yeah. So.
Are you trying to tell me that there's like near 1 million people out there watching Cornette, but 1.4 million's watching fucking Raw? As bad as Raw is, that's no, come on.
Unless people are combining all his YouTube vids over the space of a week. But even then, I don't think adding them up would get you to Dynamite numbers. Jacko said, wholeheartedly disagree on this one. Jim Cornette is the reason I watched the CM Punk return after the fight. His fans are the reason why Collision did well in the beginning. He would certainly drive me to watch. Well, I've got to wholeheartedly disagree with that. CM Punk is the reason I turned in to watch his debut, not Jim Cornette. And to claim that Cornette is responsible for the success Collision had at the start, not CM Punk, is insane. That's an asinine comment.
What could Cornette possibly said?
Do we give Cornette the credit for Rampage doing a 1.2 million when CM Punk debuted it? I mean, come on.
Yeah, like what could Cornette have possibly said to like fucking move the needle? It's all about Punk. I mean, the whole show's dedicated to Punk.
Since Punk left, yeah, Collision's went downhill. What, did Jim Cornette stop talking about it?
I'm sure Jim Cornette went in on Coalition more when Punk left. When the Young Bucks came out and, did their stick. I'm sure he loved that. Wee Jim. Wee Piggy. Fucking tennis racket Jim. I'm sure he was saying that.
I'm just not buying that at all. Dave1283. Can anyone understand what these guys are saying? Well, understand this. Basically what we're saying is Jim Cornette is not this massive draw that the people in the comments are pretending he is. This guy is not The Rock. He's not Austin. He's not Hogan. He's not Flair. Fuck. This is like claiming Vince Russo could bring 400,000 viewers to AEW by just showing up.
Yeah.
Vince Russo's got a pretty loyal fan base as well. But no
I think Vince Russo turning up would be a bigger deal than Jim Cornette. Hands down. And that's not me picking a side between them. I think just Vince Russo's way more controversial than Jim Cornette.
I'd say Jim Cornette would be more likely to embarrass himself and go on a rant though than
they're both prone to that though.
I don't think Russo would do it on live TV.
Look at Raw reunion shows, right, and all that malarkey. Look at the ratings they get, and that's with everyone on the fucking show.
But one person and Jim Cornette's supposed to change the game? I'm not sure. Rich Evans 609 said he would bring ratings for a week. Let him have control and book it. Would he bring ratings for a week? Would he? I mean, surely if that was the case, Jeff Jarrett wouldn't be putting out let's be honest, a half-assed tweet. It wasn't even like Jim Cornette. Jeff Jarrett it was basically just it wasn't even a proper infight. Let's be fucking real. We made a video on it, but it's not like Jeff Jarrett was on his hands and knees begging Cornette. It was a question.
The Cornette Championship Committee.
It was a question that Jeff Jarrett got asked on his podcast with the big fat guy. And he turned around and it was like a throwaway comment that didn't really mean anything. And he said that if he got the opportunity to work with Cornette in AEW, he would. It's not like let's not pretend like AEW were begging Jim Cornette to come on the show here. I can't believe I'm defending AEW, but that's not the case. Jeff Jarrett wasn't begging Cornette to come and save his career or save AEW. This is actually crazy, the amount of fucking cred people are giving Jim Cornette here. I'm actually flabbergasted by this. Robax 3088 said AEW and wrestling in today's times suck. Absolutely agree. I agree with that. And the thing is, listening to Jim Cornette rant about, I'm under no illusion that listening to Jim Cornette rant about AEW is not better than watching Dynamite. 100% it is. Probably Jim Cornette ranting about wrestling is better than actual shows itself. I'm not denying that. But the guy's not, he's not going to bring in, just because he can make better feds, more entertaining feds, it's just a small portion of people that watch these feds. They're not going to all go and watch the full 2-hour show. It just does not make any sense.
Like who's going to watch a full show just because Jim Cornette bashed it?
No, Jim Cornette could bash one segment. Fed could be 5 minutes. Even if that fed gets 200,000 views, that doesn't correlate to all 200,000 people tuning in to watch Dynamite. Just because Jim Cornette spent 5 minutes ranting about one segment doesn't mean 200,000 people are going to watch a full 2-hour show. EBC ENT said, if he had major money and 100% pure creative control, he would. Nobody gets in his way, no bullshit. He can fire anyone he wants, then he would work for them. I think, honestly, I don't think Jim Cornette being a booker is going to save wrestling like people believe it is. I mean, what's this guy going to do? Bring out the fucking Rock and Roll Express? I mean, come on, those days are done.
Wonky eyes himself.
Ian Klipswinski said these ball bags know nothing. Well, I'm sure you're one of these idiots that believe what Jim Cornette's going to bring 1 million viewers to Dynamite. DMB Fan 90. I think he's missing a U out there. What about Dumb Fan 90? I think that's, he's definitely missing a U for sure. Woo. What a clueless fool. Jim's podcast has more listeners than AEW has viewers. He would absolutely bring in ratings. These clowns have no idea what they are talking about. Again, where's the proof? Show me that Jim Cornette's weekly podcast, show me that his weekly podcast gets more viewers and more downloads than AEW Dynamite. Show me the proof.
You know what? I fucking can't believe this. This is the most shocking thing in wrestling this year. That people... CM Punk's the only guy that's fucking moved the needle for AEW. in any like proper major way. Why the fuck is this guy? 65-year-old Jim Cornette with a tennis racket. How is he going to do anything? We need to fact check the amount of listeners this guy's got, because this is a load of fucking shite. I mean, how can a wrestling show that's getting like, you know, hovering between 700,000, 800,000, how do people think that it's literally going to go up like 50% because of this guy? Look at the amount of people that they've got.
Sean Baker 3245 said, "I see the 2-for-1 joke went over your head. He is saying that they couldn't even sell 2-for-1 tickets. Poor grammar. Geez, man, if you're this dense, give it up. It wasn't a good joke. It really was not a good joke, and he didn't make that clear. If that's the case."
No, well, I can't even fucking remember the joke, but you know, AEW selling. It's just fuck. I hate this company.
He said something about he couldn't find someone to share the 2-for-1 ticket offer with.
Jim Cornette said this.
He was trying to make a joke, but it wasn't a good one. Obviously, I'm aware he was trying to make a joke, but the joke didn't really make sense.
Yeah, well, if Jim Cornette's that much of a draw, maybe just announce him, and then you wouldn't need to do 2-for-1s.
You don't share a 2-for-1 ticket, obviously.
Yeah,
we get that. All right, someone buys the one ticket, then the other person gets the other one for free. But Jim Cornette was trying to make a joke about how he still wouldn't go even 2-for-1 because he thinks the show's shit, and he wouldn't pay half of the one full price ticket. I get that's what he was saying. It was a joke, but it wasn't funny. I made a comment here. You can read it. People are saying that. All right, let's read it. Sean Baker, there are no real draws in wrestling anymore except the part-timers, and absolutely none in AEW, so Corny could pull in at least 200 to 500,000 viewers. Heck, I haven't watched wrestling as a regular viewer in years. I think you mean as a regular viewer in years, but I would watch if he was on there. So, I mean, this guy agrees that there's no real draws in wrestling anymore except from the part-timers.
Sorry for Jim Cornette, though.
But he thinks Jim Cornette... Imagine thinking Jim Cornette's bringing in 500,000 viewers. Man, these people are fucking insane. I think only The Rock gets 500,000 viewers. Or like a Vince McMahon going to a different company. Vince McMahon showing up in AEW.
Aye. Cornette. It's delusional. Fucking Mongoloids believe in this shit. Wrestling's fucking dead. Yo, see if Jim Cornette could bring in 500,000, he'd already be in any.
I mean, Cena and Taker go to NXT and they barely scrape 900k, but Jim Cornette's going to bring in 500,000. Are you fucking for real? 500,000? Oh, come on. What am I reading here?
And where are the fools?
No, I mean, I can accept people disagreeing. I can accept people believing that Jim Cornette is somewhat a draw and would bring in numbers. But I think we need to be a bit more realistic here with the numbers that a lot of these people are suggesting. Could he improve the number? Would he bring his hardcore fan audience, his hardcore base, would he bring some of them into the product if he appeared on it? Absolutely. No one is denying that.
Well, see if he's that much of a draw. See the weeks of good competition against, you know, NXT or Major League Baseball or whatever, basketball, or, you know, a premium live event on a Saturday in Coalition. Would he not be able to counteract that and be like, still be able to fire through and beat them?
Like, let's be honest, people say Jim Cornette's rich and he's got millions. If this guy was such a big fucking droid, start his own company, and be guaranteed 500,000 viewers from the get-go. So, you know, if this guy was the draw that everyone's saying, he could start his own company and straight away be competing with Dynamite and NXT. If he can bring in 500,000 alone.
Yeah.
And then he's such a great booker. So come on. It's unbelievable, Mike. I mean, Vince Russo always used to say that Jim Cornette's like fans were insane and they used to send him death threats and they would back Jim Cornette to the hill. Maybe he had a point.
Yeah, this is only a small snippet.
Pro One Official said, I disagree with you. Jim Cornette's podcast is massive. It's filled with people who watch wrestling and more so with people who used to watch wrestling. A Jim Cornette appearance would be massive for AEW. I know I would tune into AEW if Jim Cornette announced he would be there. I don't watch a lot of modern day wrestling anymore. I mean, that might be the case. You might tune in, but you're not part of this 500,000 that people are claiming Jim Cornette's going to bring in. It's not happening. And the Jim Cornette podcast it's not massive. I mean, it's not. I mean, look at Chris Jericho's a member of AEW. He does the Talk Is Jericho. His podcast does good numbers. Is that helping Dynamite? Is Jericho bringing massive amount of fucking
Hold on,
fans?
you're burying his podcast, but according to Big James Brown, he has the highest rated wrestling podcast on the planet. Big James Jimmy Cornette. Does that not mean nothing to you? He must be doing something right if he's got that. He said, and you think he doesn't top any ratings? What a fan you are. So you're automatically assuming that he's going to top their highest rated fucking Dynamite?
He has the highest rated wrestling podcast on the planet. Who's his competition? Who still does podcasts anymore? What's his competition?
We did a Chris Benoit Fog pod not too long ago, but I mean, come on, guys. And then Big John Coba Ruddy says, Butthurt Scots, not new there. Here, I couldn't give a fuck what Jim Cornette brings in, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he's going to bring in 500,000 people, because he's not.
Reginald Dredd said 617, well, there goes MJF's manager. David Hamilton said, yes, he would. Stop being so damn dumb. Yes, he would what? Imagine thinking this guy's bringing in 500,000 fucking viewers. That's insane.
Yeah.
500,000 of Jim Cornette's podcast listeners are going to sit through 2 hours of Dynamite. Like, wow.
John Cena comes back for a run, like an actual competitive run, not just throwaway stuff. He's against the Bloodline, LA Knight's in there. And how much has he got? Like, realistically, how much has Cena brought to the table?
I mean, they might be up by small margins, but let's be honest, like, if you didn't know he was back, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. There's much difference in the ratings. Yeah, people think, I mean, no, like, people like Cena, Taker, can barely move the needle, but Jim Cornette's going to smash it by 500,000.
You're right, though. The only guy with these numbers is The Rock. And Jim Cornette's not The Rock.
User said, doubt he would take a job if anyone. Seems content making money from home, playing armchair quarterback. Don't blame him one bit.
Well, he needs to go for the Hail Mary and get AEW back above $1 million.
Jacob Blicky says, no, you're wrong. Do you know how many Cornette fans don't even watch wrestling anymore and just listen to his podcast? If he appeared anywhere, he would bring ratings. Siren Tactical says...
No, but hold on. Why would fans... Right, say these fans haven't watched wrestling in a good 15, 20 years, right?
But
why would they automatically tune in for Jim Cornette appearing on a wrestling show? There's been more groundbreaking stuff in wrestling than this. Like, surely CM Punk returned to wrestling after 7 years to go to AEW after his whole debacle with WWE is way bigger than Jim Cornette appearing in AEW.
Well, people here seem to think Jim Cornette's a bigger draw than Punk. Like, I think you should put a poll up for that. Who's the bigger draw, Jim Cornette or CM Punk? That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
That people are basically giving Punk's drawing power ability. They're giving the credit that to.
No, but if you haven't watched wrestling since the Attitude Era or early Ruthless, like, why the fuck would you tune in to AEW because Jim Cornette's on it? What is this belief that if you haven't watched wrestling for ages and you listen to his podcast, you'll tune in?
If they want ratings, they should try putting on a good show and quit chasing fans away. Jim's fans would surely watch if he showed up. Come on. We buy his merch, we watch his shows, we fucking support him. It's a cult, bruvs. I know it's a cult, it fucking is a cult, but
like a cult.
It's a small cult, it's not a 500,000 cult, let's be real.
Buy his merch.
I'm under no illusion, right, that he has got like a cult-like fan base, but it's not 500,000 strong.
No.
You tell me 500,000 people are constantly buying Jim Cornette merch? You know how much fucking money this guy would be worth if he had that sort of cult loyal fan base?
Who buys Jim Cornette merch anyway? Who buys fucking wrestling merch in this day and age anyway?
Steve's2241 said, of course he did. He hates AEW. I listen to his podcast every day. It is great. And by the way, your accent is so strong I can barely understand what you're saying. Jim Cornette.
I can't understand what you're saying.
Chop Kicks said, in what world would Corny show up now on AEW? I mean,
the same world where 500,000 would turn up with him.
Patrick Shaver, why would Corny waste his time with going to AEW? Because Tony Khan's an actual billionaire, something that Jim Cornette's not, maybe that's why. The Icky Shuffle, and how fucking gay is Trios tag team with another man? Fuck off. If you're going to do Trios, make it elimination, and the team with the last man or men wins. Lazy ass writers not coming up with more complex writing. Just sucks off Japan tits, and when Japanese wrestling sucks, I fucking hate modern wrestling that can't even have standard rules. AEW for non-attention span TikTok fucks. Okay. Then he went on to say AEW sucks. All modern wrestling with no rules and constantly fighting on the outside with no count out. I would watch AEW for the first time in months if Cornette was on it. Fuck modern wrestling. Make pro wrestling great again. Big Donald Trump reference there. And by the way, Cornette hates Donald Trump. He's an absolute fucking lefty. Massive liberal there. So if you love Cornette, then whatever. Shadow Cage Jokers. Cornette's a podcast behemoth and would 100% bring in ratings and better booking. But hey, then Dumb Fan again replies, right, these guys are idiots.
But see,
I'm looking at you, Dumb Fan, alright? And you that you're missing for your name.
no one's... But see this whole appearance for Cornette that we're talking about? A lot of people are mentioning booking. No one's fucking saying he's booking shit.
No,
if he booked a better show, obviously the ratings would go up, but that's not because he's
we're
a draw.
simply talking about an appearance here for Jim Cornette and what an appearance for Jim Cornette would do for Dynamite. We are not saying that Jim Cornette's fans would not watch Dynamite if Cornette was on it. What we're saying is the amount of people from Jim Cornette's podcast that would tune in and watch Dynamite is not 500,000. That you can't fucking argue that.
So even if he got 1 million viewers, that would mean half of everybody that watch his podcast is tuned in.
He's not getting 1 million viewers.
That's what I'm saying. Like even if you're saying, oh, he would get 50,000 people tuning in, that would mean a decent portion of his fans have actually, turned the TV remote on and sorted it out.
What is it? I want to see him. What's this YouTube channel on? I need to get
382,000 subs. That's what it's on. Here, see subs.
And I guarantee all his feds are getting like 10% of that.
Well, the Dynamite review guys that I mentioned earlier on had 25,000 views. So if you're all that passionate about Jim Cornette burying AEW, his latest reviews only get 25,000 views, and that's not to say every single one of them is going to tune in, and that's not to say every single one of them is diehard.
Mr. Skullduggery, there's no way Jim would go on AEW. If they had him in a role like a booker or something, he probably still wouldn't, but would have loved to have seen him with a live mic calling out Twinkle Toes.
So here are some of his latest views. His recent fed about the ticket sales, 39k. Before that, 12k. Before that, 11k. Before that, 25k, which was the Dynamite review. Then talks about Edge, gets 21k. A Wardlow fed, got 15k. One with Renee Paquette got 13k, 27k before that, 29, 16, 42, that's about Vince Russo though, and TNA. Then one before that, 31, 21, 52, 45, 25, 17. So the highest out of that is 52.
I'd say on average, he's basically, would you say, down around 25k?
Yeah.
And that might be generous.
Yes.
To give him 20. So this guy, on average, his videos are getting 25,000 viewers. But what he's going to times that by, he's going to multiply that by 20.
His most popular fed ever is 2.3 million, and I'm not sticking my nose up at that, but it's not like
anyone can get a video that can go that viral. Like,
yeah, he's only got 3 videos above 1 million, but people think he's going to bring 500,000 viewers to fucking Dynamite.
But maybe people are just looking at his highest viewed fed, and they see 3.2 million viewers, and they think, oh, I'm gonna, he's gonna be able to bring 3.2 million in there. I mean, it's not how it works. Led Ward said Cornette has far too much class than to be around that gymnastic meet of tiny, non-muscular dorks led by their uber medicated social leaper Tiny Cupkin. Sniffs, those meds are good. No more blinking. Thanks for clumping them into powder, Aubrey.
Read more. I need to read more.
It's okay, Tiny. I won't be far going for a trot now. She does have a bit of a horse face, doesn't she? And I believe that was the last comment.
Yeah, that was the last comment, troops. And Jim Cornette, I thought maybe I'd read this and be convinced. If anything, the argument has went the other way for me. I've doubled down. Jim Cornette's just not this sort of draw.
Right. Let's say Jim Cornette is announced for next week Dynamite. Out of his fan base, how many people are tuning in to watch 2 hours of Dynamite next week? I'm not on about the number fluctuating. I'm just on about how many fans.
People is he getting?
Aye, how many fans are tuning in just to see Jim Cornette?
Well, like I said earlier, right, I would get a tattoo of 100,000 people tuned in, and that was more based off what he'd be able to bring in rather than the rating fluctuating. I would be
any more than 50, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I just can't see how it would be more.
Any more than 50, I'd be shocked.
And for some people to suggest it would be 10 times that.
Plus, you think about it, it's videos that don't exactly do great in views. They're a lot more accessible. You can watch them at any time. And, like, they're easy. You can go on a phone, you can go on a laptop, or so. There's easier ways to get YouTube. To watch him on Dynamite, you would actually need to be sitting in front of a cable, a cable box at like 10 o'clock or whatever time Dynamite starts at. It's a lot easier to watch a Jim Cornette YouTube video than it is to watch the guy for 2 hours on Dynamite on TBS. So yeah, I don't get it, guys. Again, I'm not saying that the guy. I'm not criticizing Jim Cornette. I'm not bashing Jim Cornette. I'm not saying he doesn't have a loyal fan base. He does have a loyal fan base, but that fan base does not stretch to 500,000 people. It simply does not. And he wouldn't bring that amount into Dynamite. He just wouldn't. 500,000 is the Rock numbers. And honestly, yeah, I think the Rock is probably the only guy that gets that amount. I mean, maybe like Austin, Hogan could get something around that. I think if someone big for the WWE switched, like if Cena went to AEW, let's be real, Cena appearing on AEW is going to get a much higher ratings boost than it would if Cena appears on WWE, because he's like, crossing enemy lines. Same with Taker. I mean, Taker coming back for a WWE appearance might only move the needle a wee bit, but if Taker went to AEW, it would move the needle a hell of a lot more, because he is jumping ship from WWE to AEW. But to get 500,000, you need to be on that level, and Jim Cornette's not.
No, he's nowhere near that level, man. Like you said, 50,000 would be a fucking shock. It would be an absolute shock. There's just no way. Like, the wrestling numbers are dwindling, and to think that this guy, like he just wouldn't have half. He just doesn't have 500,000 in the tank. See if he did, Tony Khan would have been doing everything in his power to get this guy in, man.
I go back to my earlier comment. If Jim Cornette could bring 500,000 viewers to a wrestling show, why has he not got his own?
Well, there you go. Why doesn't he? Why wouldn't he have his own?
Or at least he could go to TNA. I'm sure TNA could get him. And he could make a deal with TNA, because they've been shite over the years. They've been hanging on by a thread. So if Jim Cornette's had this massive fan base and all he needed was a chance, surely he could have went to TNA and got them back up to 500 million viewers. 500,000 viewers, sorry.
No, but it's like, even you look at the ratings and the attitude there, if he's getting 500,000, I mean, that means he's getting like, what?
So Jim
a 20 for that?
Jim
like, at its peak?
Basically, Jim Cornette was the difference maker on the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah.
Whatever show Jim Cornette was on was going to win. It's not about the fucking rise of Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's about Jim Cornette.
But see that episode of Raw, him and Shane were on commentary?
So what you're saying, that tips the scales, because if Jim Cornette's on Raw and he goes to Nitro, that's a million swing, because Raw would lose 500,000 and Nitro would gain. So what you're saying is Jim Cornette, during the Monday Night Wars, he had, and that's when wrestling was more popular, so you could argue, well, his growth should have been bigger. What you're saying is Jim Cornette had like a million viewer swing.
Yep, that's what I'm saying.
Depending on what show he was on.
He hit it like fucking Babe Ruth at the stadium.
What a load of shite.
Yeah.
I have never heard so much shite in my life.
Honestly, it's probably, I can't get a worse opinion than that. I would say that's almost up there with Angle saying Charlotte Flair's the greatest wrestler of all time.
You know what's crazy though? See all these people that are, kissing up Cornette? See if Vince Russo came out and says if he went in AEW, he would get 500,000 viewers. People would be saying this, he's delusional, he's an idiot, doesn't know what he's talking about, he killed Owen Hart, blah, 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 blah. That's what people would be saying. If Vince Russo was suggesting that he himself could bring 500,000 viewers to a TV company, a wrestling brand in 2023. But Jim Cornette, he doesn't even need to say it. People say it for him. It's insane.
It's insane.
Absolutely insane.
And that's where we're going to leave this video, guys. I'm sure there'll probably be a bit more aftermath to it. But you know what? I hope Jim Cornette makes a wee appearance in AEW. Sooner rather than later. And I'll be there to bury it. I'll be there to fucking claim that the 500,000 claim was an absolute load of fucking shite. Because there's just no way. No fucking way is he getting 500,000. Doesn't matter what he's doing. Like, what could Jim Cornette really be doing on Dynamite to warrant? Like, what, just simply appearing? What's he going to do?
No, we'll probably put a poll up. We'll have 4 options and you guys can decide. Like, for me,
surely they'd be able to sell out arenas if it was announced that Jim Cornette would be there. Sting's retiring, man, and there's about 5 people he's looking at.
So Jim Cornette, if he came back to wrestling, he could sell out Wembley 5 times.
That fucking more.
Why doesn't Jim...
6 times?
See next time Jim Cornette does a wee tour of the UK, why doesn't he just... why doesn't he book Wembley for 5 days straight? Since the guy can...
Jim Cornette, day 5.
You know, why not?
Why not? Exactly.
I mean, people are making it as if Jim Cornette's got WrestleMania numbers here. It's actually crazy, like... Oh, man. It's fucking insane.
It is insane, guys. But anyway, that's where we're going to leave this video. Jim Cornette, come on, son. Sign the contract. Go over to Tony Khan's World of Extreme. But anyway, till then, peace.